So I was thinking I could go live right now. There's some rich people looking at me. It's another airport adventure. I'm gonna just start cleaning my face. I don't even care. Slept at the airport last night. I don't care. How are you guys doing? Yesterday was an interesting day. Such an interesting day. I'm so ready to be home. I'm just so ready to be home. They took my snack suitcase. I wasn't sure that I would make it until I wasn't sure that I would make it till today. I really wasn't. I'm just so exhausted at this point. So exhausted. I just want to go home. I want to go home. All right. Hold on, guys. Hold on. This is the bare minimum. Hold on. Moisturizer number 2. I'll just. I feel so dry. God. I can't do oil cleansing. I can't do oil cleansing because my skin is super sensitive. Like super sensitive. I don't even know, guys. I don't even know. I'm just so exhausted. I'm so ready to be home. Like so ready to be home.
Are playing board at 6 o'clock. It's 5:15 right now. Oh, okay. Luke, are you going to be okay to sit here for a minute? Or you can get all this gear through over to can you hold on for a minute?
Oh my guys.
Okay. Okay. You need anything?
Hold on. So I figured I could just clean my face. That's totally just made my day. Did you hear him? Oh, shocking. Where's my... Oh no. I don't know where my lip gloss went. I do carry with me some Empress oil. This is my oil blend. It smells good. It's moisturizing. All right. All right, guys. I wanted to do an energy update. I don't even know why I bothered bringing makeup. I haven't worn makeup in days. anyways. Let me just put this away. I wanted to do an energy update for you guys. I found myself a little corner. Oh, actually. Hold on, guys. Totally can't focus. Oh, I found it. I look pick me up. People might think I'm weird. That's fine. Leanne, I put the Rowdy Russian in the snack suitcase. You better not mess it up for the snacks. I'm just saying. You better not mess it up for the snacks, because if he does, he's gonna have to answer to my children. I'm just obsessed with moisturizing. And this is just some good stuff. Oh my god, don't tell me it's all done. Oh shit. Will it still close? It does. So this has sunflower oil, beeswax, coconut oil, vitamin E, rosemary, calendula, peppermint. I'm just saying. It's supposed to be on my shop page, but I don't have it on there. Because heaven forbid I actually list things the way I say I will. Okay. I'm just tired. I am. Well, it's just so good. We need some. It's just been too long of a trip. That's what it is. It's too long of a trip. I'm ready to go home. I'm just ready to go home. And I'm just doing crazy things at this point. Alright. In all seriousness. Oh, no, don't look over there. Don't look over there. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Alright. Why you guys keep trying to get away from me? Alright, here. So let's see. What's Casserati oil? What's that? What is that? I've never heard of it. So I make my own soap. I use all kinds of different oils and stuff for my face. She looked at me hella crazy. Leanne, do you know him? Let's pull the cards out. But I'm just saying. Okay. Now, I'm really loving, I think it was these cards. Yeah, I'm really loving these cards. So let's do an energy update. Let's see what it's about. Thank you, Lara. Let's see what it's about. What's Cucamundi oil? What is that? Y'all can see I'm sleep deprived. I'm just saying, maybe some people are just needing to moisturize or something. I'm just over here moisturizing myself. Stay in my own lane, moisturizing myself with my cards. You're not loving the energy from yesterday and today. What's the energy like? What have you guys been feeling? I've been extra salty. Like who's an Ayurvedic blend? I look like I'm in my power. I look like I'm salty is what I salty enough to reach out and just love tap someone. Like something isn't coming to. It does feel like there's a little bit of a blockage, like something is just beneath the surface, and there's resistance to that process. That might be what you're picking up on. I mean, let's see. Let's see what the cards say. Ooh. Damn, these cards are so true though. They're so true. I swear to God. Look over here one more time. One more time. Snatch your eyes out. Anyways. I'm about to get real extra up in here. Real extra. So card number 27. Resilience. Burn away the past. I think what's going on is that as things are rising up to the surface, we are really experiencing the truth of the events that we've lived through. Things that we've kind of just explained away within our own minds in the past. Those explanations are no longer sufficient. We're kind of needing to dive deeper into what's happened, our thoughts on what's happened, how we possibly co-created it. Yeah, see, Catherine's back in deep old cycles. Well, you've been brought back to those old cycles to start burning it away. The next card, Buho, card number 2, transform the way you see. You have to revisit the past sometimes in order to transform how you see the future. Because if in the past your cycles have allowed you to kind of dismiss, compartmentalize, basically some form of avoidance. If your past has been avoided, the processing of that past, it's going to be rising back up. It's going to be something that you're going to have to really, really start looking into at this point. Next we have card number 15, Maximus. How can you feed others when your own table is empty? See, and that's the thing. When you don't address the issues from the past, there is that potentiality that you're withholding the very events.
Passengers in the gate area for flight 717 to San Diego here at B16. We do have on-time departure, or actually, sorry, too fast.
You're fine,
do have
girl,
a
you're fine.
slight delay here at B16 for San Diego. We'll be boarding around 5:50, and we'll be leaving around 6:20. So just a slight 20-minute delay. It's weather related. Again, for flight 717 to San Diego here at B16, we have a slight delay. We'll be boarding at 5:50. If you have your own personal wheelchair walker or stroller, please meet me here at the B16 podium so I can check that item for you. I have upgrades A1 through 15 for
So,
$50, but there is $100
when you continue to feed other people instead of yourself, I call that spiritual anorexia. You know what I mean? It's like you're withholding from yourself the very nourishing things. And you have to allow yourself to nourish yourself. And nourishment is more than just pampering. And that's what we don't quite get. We always have such a definitive, like, anything positive has to be enabling, pampering, that type of thing. But in reality, sometimes the nourishment comes from the challenge. It's
Please remain seated. Everyone has an hour or more. Nashville has 35 minutes, which is perfectly fine.
telling people to remain seated. What if they want to stand up? What if they want to stand up? I'm just saying. But anyways, as I was saying, it's like this logic that only the sweet things in life can be nurturing. Okay, if we're talking about the analogy of spiritual anorexia and regular anorexia, is only candy and sweet stuff nourishing? It's kind of the opposite, right? You need a nice balance of, ripe fruit along with vegetables, along with proteins, and, so you have to take everything in life and see how you can create a table with a spread of everything you need to actually nurture yourself, nourish yourself. Hold on. Let's get the other deck. So a lot of this has to do with processing the old things that are rising up. The past few days for me is about processing the old things that it's been a really intense processing period the past few days. There were things that up until the past 48 hours, I was like, I feel so cheated, I feel so robbed. Why didn't I get to exercise the option to be a part of that process previously? Why was that experience withheld from me?
This flight has canceled, actually. So we are rebooking all local passengers. I won't be doing it here. So we will be calling you up. Give us 1 second. It goes a lot more efficient and quicker if I can do it here and then let you guys know when to come up.
She said, just stay seated. It's just a delay. Actually, it's canceled. Wow. Anyways, so I was thinking that for the better part of this past 6 months, I was thinking that why didn't I get to partake in certain things? Why was that experience withheld from me? It was this intense feeling of, I know I'm spiritually mature enough to have been able to handle it.
Please let us rebook you, please. It'll go a lot quicker. We do have 70 people on this flight, so it'll be a lot quicker for all 70 people. If we can rebook you, give us 1 second.
You better start offering some snacks over there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. First off, you got me twisted telling me to sit down. This is not me. Anyways, experiencing the last 48 hours, I realized there was no way I was mature enough to handle fully participating, being fully present in those experiences that I thought I just knew in my heart I was ready. Like, girl. And it goes back to this thing where I keep telling you guys, we assume we're ready for things. We're like, I got this, I've done the work, I've done the internal work, only to later realize I don't got this. I've done the work, but it's way more than what I thought. It's way more than what I can actually handle. See? You think you overestimated yourself in dealing with this energy. I don't think it was an overestimation. I think it was a misalignment with the truth as you know it and your expectation based off of your perception of the truth. Does that make sense? So, I don't know. I just know that in the past couple of days, I'm like, damn. That thing that I was so bitter about for months on end, like why was I kept out of that? Why wasn't I allowed to be fully present? Oh my God. I think that would have been beyond what I could have ever possibly handled. And it's amazing, regardless of how much you've developed, how much you've allowed your consciousness to expand, it's always not as much as you think. Always, you know, and that's what I tell you guys. Like it's.
All passengers
I
on
do,
flight 717 to San Diego, if you would like to come up here, we do have all boarding passes for you guys, so we can print them out for you. Please have your IDs out ready if you're on flight, or were on flight 717 to San Diego.
I do notice, and I don't want to say it's because people are copying me or anything like that, but I do notice there is a growing trend of individuals liking to make that statement of I'm just like everyone else and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think they really mean that. I think it just sounds good to them. You know, they don't think they're like everyone else. They don't want to be like everyone else. They want to stand out. They want some sort of notoriety. They want some sort of recognition, some sort of elevated standing within social circles, things like that. I really don't. I really don't want or need that. I really do feel like I'm just like you guys, like regardless of how it seems, that, oh, I know things or I have some really deepened insight. I'm still right there, shoulder to shoulder with you guys, still getting a better idea of just how limited my perception actually is. You know, we're just all at varying degrees of a limited perception. And as long as you're in this human experience, I think we're always going to have those limits within our perceptions, the way we see life, the way we process, the way we filter. There's always going to be those limits, simply because the human mind just was not designed to be able to sufficiently expand to transcend that struggle, that human struggle. I think it's just an inherent human struggle. Is it bad to struggle? Not necessarily. Sometimes it's in that resistance to your own path that you increase your stamina and strength. So, I don't know. Let's see what the cards say. Ooh. Ooh. All right. So. We'll just put that away. So this is very interesting. Oops. I love how these cards are. All right. I love the numbers. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Change. If you look, it's like you're using your protection, the egg, your shell, your limitations, as a jumping board, you know? It's like you're pushing back against the limitations of the egg. You're removing yourself from that previous known existence, placing yourself outside of it so you can push off of it. And then there's those seagulls, and if you remember that animation Finding Nemo, what do the seagulls always say? The whole mind, right? So this is like the opportunity for your consciousness to expand, but the human mind is still like mind. This is my experience. This is my life. I get to decide it. And you know that this topic comes up often when it comes to spirituality, because it's like very much a toddlerhood of consciousness when you can't get beyond the whole mind. I don't want it this way. I want it that way. I want this. I need this, you know, instead of just opening yourself to experiencing whatever it is your soul is trying to provide for you. It's very much toddlerhood of the consciousness. So card number 3, realization. there's that scripture about the camel. I don't remember it. I think it's like the camel would have an easier time passing through the eye of a needle. Something about a needle. My memory is so faulty. I don't remember it. But it's your realization. It's your realization. The human experience and the soul experience are two different things. Two very, very different things. Very, very different things. And if you allow yourself to change the areas in which you allow yourself to realize, to experience the self-realization, because you can experience self-realization on a human level as well as a soul level. Two different, very, very different. And if you open yourself to experiencing both, that can really, really shift quite a bit for you. It can cause a blossoming. It can give you the opportunity to begin hearing, receiving that angelic song within your heart space. And oftentimes when you experience that, a clearing of the auditory, the energetic pathways to hear a new type of song, heart song, it often leads to a want and a need to begin that self-love journey. And you don't have to have mastered self-love in order for you to deserve love, to receive love. That's another, I'm never going to stop talking about this, I don't think, because it's such a huge misconception, this school of thought that no one can love you unless you learn how to love yourself first. That's such a lie. That's such a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. You are absolutely capable of being loved without having mastered love. You just have to be open to receiving it. That's it. You have to be open to receiving it. Some people might not ever master self-love their whole life. They'll spend their whole life struggling to master self-love and never actually fully have that moment where they enter a state of self-love. Does that mean you don't deserve to be loved your entire life? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Ooh. Ooh. Wow. The path. The path. Look at how rickety that ladder looks. When it comes to spirituality, we often like to think that it's we often like to think that it is something that is to be experienced in a very specific way, like spirituality by numbers, and that's just not how it is. Oftentimes, spirituality is such an uneven, tumultuous type of experience, like extreme highs, extreme lows, a lot of hairpin turns, and you know, it's not like the yellow brick road. It's not a lined path. If you are walking down a path, like a visible path, one that you can readily identify, that's probably not your path. And this is why. That means you're following in the footsteps of someone else. That means you're using someone else's pathway. Because this is the first time you're going down this path in this lifetime. So if you can clearly see the path ahead of you, and people are often like, I feel so lost, I don't know what direction I'm headed. You're not supposed to know. If you can clearly identify where and what that path is, that means you are following someone else. And that's not what the truth of spirituality actually is. Spirituality is the undoing of the programs. This realization that you shouldn't be following anyone else. That you inherently know you're being given internal guidance as to where you should go, the areas of your mind, the thoughts that are being that are necessary to begin the processing of those events that were brought to you to grow you, all of those things. But again, if you think you're going to do this spiritual thing based on how other people have done it, you're not on your path. You're not on your path. And it's okay. You don't always have to be on your path. Sometimes, in order for you to gain a better understanding of your own experiences, in order to have that rejuvenation, that recharge, sometimes you do have to follow behind other people who have trailblazed, who have taken their energetic machete and cut down the overgrowth. And sometimes you have to just completely leave that path, the beaten path. Would you rather have an easy journey or the one you were meant to have? Which one is it? You know, do you want to just be a pale comparison? Or do you want to be your own person? And that's something you're going to have to decide for yourself. There's no real right or wrong answer to that. But there is a need for you to begin questioning yourself to see where it is your consciousness is at this point, you know? Right? One day and moments at a time. Baby steps. Baby steps. If your consciousness is still in its toddlerhood, then you would need to have baby steps. You know, you're not expected to do things. And that's another thing. If you're doing things simply for the recognition for other people outside of yourself to be able to recognize and identify you as a spiritual being, then is that really spirituality, or is that more human-based? A human-based need of recognition, acknowledgement, external confirmation of your internal belief of your social standings. You know, what is it? What is it? What are your objectives? So hold on, guys. Yeah, if you need other people to recognize these things about you, then it is rooted in ego. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. Oh, thank you. He had a sour face because I had my cup in the cup holder in the chair that I'm using. Let's pull out more cards because I'm needing to just stay in my lane and focus on myself. I'm just saying. So here we go. We'll pull out more cards. We'll pull out more cards. Jesus, take the wheel. Just like, oh my gosh, this whole couple of days have been so insane for me. It's been so insane for me. Behave yourself. Behave yourself. Behave yourself. You're almost done. Behave yourself. Behave yourself. Sometimes all you can do is kind of just laugh. Because the other option is not a good option. Oh, hold on. Okay. Let's see what this... It's getting nice and packed up in this terminal. Alright. So, and no, I don't have the meaning of these cards memorized. So we have... We have the Strength card in reverse. Pettiness. Ooh. lack of faith, abuse of power. So this is telling us that we're probably going to have circumstance triggers that is going to test exactly how much you've tempered your ego with your grace. And then we
Good morning, Benny.
have the Empress.
Good morning.
I'm about to start singing now. Where is this card? Here we go. We have the Empress, feminine progress. There's this continued referencing of the feminine principle, the feminine progress, the feminine energies. Kali Ma came up. Kali being the dark, more destructive aspects of that feminine energy. And now, as that pendulum swings, because really what is life but a big experiment in causation and effect, mental alchemy. So as that pendulum of life swung towards one polarity, which is the Kali Ma, darker aspects of the feminine energy, it's now being allowed to swing back like a wrecking ball into the other polarity, which would be more of the Kuan Yin Empress type of energy. Okay, because Kuan Yin is really just another aspect of Kali, and Kali another aspect of Kuan Yin. So let's see. Points. 4 points. Love of material wealth, hoarder, inability to share. I'm wondering if this inability to share, this referencing of an inability to share, has to do with our unwillingness to allow aspects of the feminine to rise up and be expressed, to be vocalized in a public manner. It's very interesting because a lot of the things that I witness, especially on social media platforms, some people would say it's like progressive, a show of the increase.
Okay, those of you going to Denver, we're going to start boarding this aircraft about 6 o'clock. But in the meantime, if I have any car seats, strollers, any medical devices that do require destination tag, please bring them on up. Get everything tagged before we board the flight. Folks, this is a completely full flight. Every seat will be taken today. So if you do want, if you're in the C group and you want to volunteer to check your bags, we'd be happy to do that for you at this time also.
So as I was saying, I'm wondering if that the feminine aspects that you guys are witnessing, because I know I'm witnessing it, a lot of the shows of feminine power are nothing more than a distortion, reciprocal reflection of that masculine wound. There is a lot of toxic femininity going along, just as much as the toxic masculinity. If people claim to be all about helping to empower the feminine by bashing the masculine, that's not empowerment. True empowerment has nothing to do with bashing anyone. True empowerment is about the self, the deeper journey into the self. So that's what we're witnessing a lot of, and I'm wondering if this like hoarding, unwillingness to share has to do with us allowing the vulnerable feminine to rise up. Because sometimes the most effective way to correct an imbalance would be to give the person a sense of a say in how that balance is going to be corrected. You know, instead of just dictating to groups how the balance is corrected, how the shift is to happen, allowing things to just naturally happen. Vulnerability is a very potent way to open people to this sense that they have a say in how they're going to rise with you, not be dragged. Oh. Let's see. Ooh, okay. It's full. It's a full flight there. Tons of people everywhere. So King of Swords in reverse. A person who may pursue a matter to ruin, conflict, selfishness, sadism. A dangerous or wicked person, one who causes unnecessary disturbance and sadness. This is just what I was talking about. Exactly what I was talking about. A very vocal, feminine energy reflecting the wounded toxicity of that unbalanced masculine, the patriarchal system. It doesn't help to reach higher levels of consciousness. It just doesn't. It doesn't. There's no way it could, because it's another expression of the same patriarchal system that's basically enslaved everybody. So
I want to come home, but I can't, buddy. I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm at the airport.
See,
I'm not going to be
unsatisfactory love, false friendship, troubled relationship, divorce, separation, cross desires, misunderstanding. It's again reaffirming the very things that I'm talking about. You know, it's a internal divorcing of the masculine and the feminine, because we embody both within our auric field. We embody both. And this separation, this identifying as a duality, the duality is the wound. It's the wound of the soul. So if you continue to identify as a duality, you are identifying yourself as a wound. And this is the very reason why people refuse to heal. When you identify as the wound, if something comes along and presents as a way to heal, the healing process erases the wound. Therefore, it erases your identity, and you will fight that. And that's why some people just choose not to heal, and that's okay. At some point, giving them the freedom to choose it for themselves is actually what's going to cause their healing. It's that freedom that will free them to choose their own healing. But as long as there's going to be something there that perpetuates the emotional, mental, energetic, spiritual struggle of re-identifying as a sovereign rather than a wound inflicted upon the sovereign, it's going to be a waste of your time. So work on yourself. I guess the bottom line is work on yourself. Allow yourself to begin really rebalancing within you both your masculine and feminine aspects. Allow the masculine to lift up the feminine. Allow the feminine to invite the masculine to sit by your side. It's all about internal equality, you know, really entering a state of totality, releasing the need to identify as a duality and embracing the totality of who and what you are. So I think I'm going to be boarding soon. And there's just far too many people. I'm getting self-conscious again. I feel like I said too much. I feel like I said too much. So thank you guys for sharing this space with me. How can you do that? By not intentionally trying. Laura, when you ask how can you do that, how can you release the need to identify as a duality and enter a state of totality? It's when you stop trying. Because when you are who you are, just being who you are, and you don't have to try to be you, you just are. Naturally, you are a totality. It's the human mind that needs to create structure and order and compartmentalize and separate and label. That's why you can't really expect yourself to reach a level of expansion, consciousness expansion within this lifetime that will fully free you. As long as you're in a human vessel, thinking, processing, filtering with a human consciousness, you will always have limitations, and that's okay. That's okay. You can expand the limits that you're working within. And you do that by no longer believing in limitations. That causes tremendous amounts of potentiality for expansion. And that's really the goal. It's not about reaching some specific level or destination or frequency or any of that. It's about the process of freeing yourself to expand freely with no restrictions. And that doesn't happen as long as you're having someone else tell you how to do it. It just doesn't. It doesn't. Because then you're trying to do something else. You're trying to be something else, someone else. You're trying to be a reflection of another person outside of you. Instead of recognizing when you resonate with me, the things that I'm saying, especially like in this moment, if you're resonating with it, if you're feeling it in your
Good
chest,
morning here at gate
it's because
17.
you're
We're going to
seeing a
begin our boarding
reflection of
process in a
yourself
couple of
being
minutes.
expressed through me.
I'm still waiting on flight attendants.
You're already
for
this.
passing through security. After
But
they're
your
done with the
perception won't allow
checklist,
you
we'll
to
begin our boarding process.
embrace
I just
that.
want to go over the
I gotta
boarding
go.
procedure with you guys.
Bye,
If you have
guys.
any walkers,
Give this video a
strollers,
thumbs
anything
up,
that needs to be taken to your
subscribe,
final
turn on that
destination,
notification
please go ahead
bell,
and take care of
join
those
me.
items before we begin our boarding process. And folks,